I can't believe that Stonemaier omitted this information from their description overall. I get why, but that would be such a huge selling point if you realize what happens. Vantage is one of the most incredible open world board games that I have ever experienced. And honestly, I don't even like exploring in games, yet all I find myself doing in Vantage is exploring. Now I've spent over 20 hours in this game. I have over 10 gameplays across 1, 2, 3, and 4 player counts. So I've experienced quite a bit. And yet every single gameplay session has really been a unique experience. If you are familiar with my reviews, you know that I typically play a game at max 3 times before I review it. I did not need to play this game 10 times, yet I just could not find myself stopping. So honestly, I kind of overdid this one, but it's fine because I enjoyed it a ton, and now I feel like I can really speak to a lot of aspects of the game. So I am dying to tell you my thoughts about this game. We're gonna have a non-spoiler section timestamped below, along with a spoiler section at the very, very end. But right now, I just want to show you a quick couple of gameplay rounds. That way you know exactly how this game plays. Instead of me telling you what it's like, I want to just show you what it's like. So honestly, a little bit of minor spoilers, but it's very unlikely you're going to experience this exact same setup as what I'm going to do right here. As always, this is not a sponsored review. With that, let's go ahead and show you how the game works. Our spaceship has crashed into a different part of this huge world of Vantage. And our space pods, which was initially before this, has told us to get a random set of skill dice in order for it to tell you exactly which starting location you're gonna begin at, which is a ton to choose from. So in this case, I chose a random one. And if you look here, it says a pair of sentients hold hands on a bridge while a third sentient directs them. I am currently playing as Ariel, the engineer, which right now, all the characters don't have too many different abilities to start with. The main thing is their color is going to tell you what skill they specialize in. So in this game, what you want to do is look at the artwork, because the artwork matters. A lot of the details in terms of where you should go and the things you can do, they give hints in the art, which is absolutely amazing and one thing I really love about Vantage. In this case, I'm going to focus in on what my character is good at, which are the yellow actions. In this case, Ariel is going to steal or try to steal from these 3 sentients that are hanging out all by themselves. Instantly enough, we're just going to steal them for fun. So I'm going to go into the yellow book since it is a yellow action. And the yellow book is the take storybook. And then I'm going to flip to that specific number. And then that number will be listed on the top left corner. So then what's going to happen is the book is going to tell you the number and the action. So in this case, you're going to steal from the couple while their attention is on each other. And then it also is going to give you a number, which is in this case 4. So every time you roll dice in this game, it's bad. You don't want to roll dice because the more dice you roll, the more likely you are going to die. And my goal in this game, my overall mission is going to change from each time, but your goal overall is to complete the mission and or destiny if you find them. And if you complete both, then you have an epic victory. In this case, my current mission is to have at least a 30 money value on cards in one player's grid. And then if I do, then that will be a mission success. Right now we have 0 money in our grid. So our goal is to find a lot of stuff. So it makes sense for us to steal right now. And then for this particular check, you need to roll 4. Well, the thing is, you're going to pass every single action that you take. So when I steal, I'm gonna steal. That's gonna happen. I have health, I have time, and I have morale. If any of those hit 0, game's over. So right now, because there's a 4, I'm going to roll 4 from the challenge pool. But since I have a yellow skill token, which is this one, I can decrease that die, which I almost always want to do. So I'm gonna spend that one. And now instead of rolling 4, I'm gonna roll just 3 dice and we'll see what happens. Roll here. Ooh, nice. Okay, so I got a negative. That's a really good thing because this means nothing happens. This die is gonna go into the challenge dice penalty pool over here, but you could also slot those dice. Now in this case, if I can't slot these dice over here, a heart and a time symbol, I'm going to lose that on the track. So I would lose 1 heart or I would lose 1 time if I can't get rid of these dice. This top right symbol means I can slot in a time die, and the lightning symbol means I can slot it in from anyone. It's an impact. So if I were to play multiplayer, I can take other people's time die and also put it there. The top left means if I'm taking a yellow action, which in this case I am, I can also slot it in there. So this works out perfectly and I'm gonna take no damage, which is freaking amazing. So now I'm gonna take this time, slot it into here, and then take this heart and slot it into this yellow symbol. Now, on this same card, Ariel also says on the top left corner, which will be present in all characters, the top left says, if I slot in a die, I can get a boost. So because I do that, I'm gonna take one of these gray cubes and I'm gonna put it into my slot over here. And then for the boost, if I spend 2, I can get 1 money, or I can also get another blue skill token. That's what I'm allowed to do right now. And then if I spend 1, I can also re-roll dice. So boosts are great for your character. So from there, best part about this game is I'm gonna see exactly what happens. You don't feel great about it, but you are excited by what you find. Lose 1 morale, but instead, I'm also going to gain item 949 and $6, which is a lot of money. Get money, that's what I'm talking about. And gain item 949. So then every time you need to look for stuff in this game, you're gonna go into the box, everything's organized by number, and just quickly find it, which I think is super organized and easy to do. Got that item. Another big part about this game is your grid. So the grid is your character, and then you have a 3x3 grid, a cube in essence, around you. Now, there are all kinds of things that can go into your grid. The one item that you're gonna see here is, in this case, an instrument. It is a luring flute. So now you can see how the game starts to slowly escalate and tease you in the amount of actions that you can take. Yes, there are 6 colors, including a depart action, which is separate from the 6 actions. But yes, there are 6 colors at almost each location. But then on top of that, these actions spiral down to have even more. In this case, again, light spoilers, but I'm showing you the luring flute. So the luring flute also has a coax and it has a lure option on the top left. So now your character is essentially getting stronger because not only can you slot in yellow dice, you can also slot in orange dice. In this case, I can slot in any actions that have a coax or that have a lure. And then on the top right, it also allows me to slot in a star of any dice as well. Every time I slot in a star, I also get 1 money. And then on top of that, look at this here. The bottom left of the instrument says it is worth 8 coins. Oh, why does that matter, Tim? Wait a minute. My mission says have at least 30 value of cards in one player's grid in order for you to complete your mission. So in summary, how this game works is you start off at a location, you pick one thing to do, you look into that book, and that's gonna tell you a certain number and the type of action. And then you're going to roll whatever number it tells you to roll. And if you are able to, you can spend skill tokens to reduce the number of dice, which you almost always want to do, because if not, your health and your other stats are going to drop down to 0. If you drop down to 0, game's over. With your overall goal, in order to complete the mission, you want to stay lightning focused on that mission and do all the things that are getting towards that. So in this case, since I'm trying to accumulate a lot of items, it's a good thing for me to start going around stealing and scavenging for stuff, which I did, sadly, to these very innocent sentients that are walking around on a hill, just chilling by themselves. Here I am, pickpocketing them for no reason. And honestly, that's what makes the game really fun, because you can do all these crazy things like that. And it really escalates from there because I get to add on and strengthen my character. You saw I got 1 item, I got a flute. And with that flute, I can now expand my orange actions, which are the engage actions, by a lot. I can coax, I can lure, I can add in a star to that. And then this is also worth money, which is perfect because it links to the mission. From there, you can only do 1 action at a location, and then you have to depart. So if I go to the right, it's gonna cost me 1 blue token, or I roll 1 blue die. If not, I can take a chance and depart to one of those stars, and I will look into the depart storybook, this one. I'll look into here and then it'll tell me, oh, this is what happens at that location if you go north, west, and south. So clearly you can see that this is a massive, massive world. I showed you 1 location, 1 item, and imagine that tenfold, if not more, of what this game offers. Okay, if you're enjoying the video so far and you're not subscribed, 80% of you aren't, can you do me a quick favor and hit subscribe down below so we can grow the wolf pack even further? I'd love to have you here. And I'm also going to be doing a solo playthrough tomorrow, as of the time of this recording, which you don't want to miss either. So make sure you subscribe. And with that, let's dive into the non-spoiler part of today's review. I love how ambitious this game is. Vantage blows my freaking mind. Because if you think about it, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of uniquely illustrated cards. There's over 1,000 cards. I can understand now why this game took 8 years to make, because there is all of this individually drawn artwork and every card is different. And you know, tons of other board games have beautiful artwork and I love like looking at it, because one big thing for us is that if we enjoy the art of the game, we're probably gonna enjoy the game a lot more because now it's pleasing to look at. But that's the extent of it. In this case, Vantage takes it a step further and really delves in to the details of the art. For instance, I'm gonna again focus in on that one location I showed. There are these asterisks which tell you a mystery about if you depart, what happens and where you're going towards. Well, if I go north, I will actually see some sort of connection maybe to the waterfall if I go north. If I go south, maybe I'm seeing a totally different terrain and a desert or something. And if I go on the west side, maybe I'm actually going towards the mountains and seeing some kind of hidden cave there. And then if I'm looking at the other actions here, orange here says entertain, and there's also a candle here. So maybe I can pick up some kind of item which is actually on the card, like the art involved is part of the game. That's what I really love about Vantage, is that there are so many details in the art that matters. I'm gonna make something up real quick, but something similar to this happened. So let's say I crash landed in the desert. And far off in the distance, I see my mission is to find a jungle patch hidden on a mountain. And then far, far away from my desert, I see a mountain in the background. So if I go north, I'm probably gonna reach a destination that may be important. But wait a minute, there are also some ruins here where I crash landed. And on those ruins, it looks like there's an instrument hanging on the wall. And one of the actions I could take is to investigate. So why don't I just do that? And then roll some dice, spend some skill tokens, and then I realized like, oh frick, the instrument that was on the ruins itself, I can pick it up, take it, and it becomes a tangible item for me that I can use. That is so cool. Bottom line, if you enjoy adventures, if you like exploring, which for me, I didn't even like exploring to begin with. Every time I'm playing games like that, I'm always fighting things. I never explore. I'm always exploring in this game because there's so many different things that you can find that really connect with each other. And when you find that connection point, it is the most satisfying thing. It's like, this was crazy how you connect all these dots in the game and to reach a point where these dots connect. It's like the most Sherlock-esque, mind-blowing thing that you can imagine. If you enjoy games like Breath of the Wild, imagine that in tabletop form, this is what you get. So there is one thing I don't like about Vantage and one thing I'm somewhat neutral about. One thing I don't like about this game is that after so many hours poured into this one, I've realized that you are specializing and you can only really do what you have. Let me explain. My character, in this case, Ariel, is an engineer, so she specializes in a lot of yellow type actions, which means I should only be taking those specific types of actions unless I get more skills later on by interacting with environments in order for me to gain like the blue tokens and the purple and green tokens later on. So if I randomly come across, I don't know, a random beast and I want to fight it or something, or I came across a person that looks sus and I want to fight them, well, that's going to be one big risk. And here's where the game kind of reminds me of like a Souls. If you ever played any of the Souls games, it reminds me of that Souls-like experience because those results, the penalties for that can be very, very harsh. It's like the game gives you freedom, but not all the time. And if you explore outside of your colors, it's gonna hurt, or it could potentially hurt. It doesn't always hurt. That's why I'm like, I don't hate it, but it also doesn't feel as good all the time because again, if I want to slay a creature, all right, I'm ready to go. I got weapons ready, but I have no reds. I'm gonna roll some crazy amount of dice and I'm like, okay, I just dropped from 4 health to 0 in an instant because I made a decision that was daring, but I mean, I didn't know that was gonna happen. So when you take that information, you can apply it to later sessions, which works out really well. And I think that's what the game intended. But I still really wanted a way for you to somewhat convert the colors that you have. So like, if for instance, you had access to a shop on your spaceship or something, and you could trade the skills, or like you could remote to your AI in the ship or something and tell them like, hey, I don't want to specialize in blue anymore. Can I switch this over to red and then change your blues to red in order for you to fight something? I think that would be fun. You can only access your shop 3 times on one game. I think that would have made that problem easily fixed. But I get what the game is trying to do in those instances, and it also isn't always punishing. So that's why it's like, I don't like it, but I can't fully hate it because the game's not always like that. So you should be aware that yes, you are gonna be limited to the colors you have, not always. And if you are gonna take a risk, it's gonna be a big risk because that risk could cost you the entire game. And some people may not like that. So one thing I am neutral about though, that is somewhat related to this point, is that solo is harder than multiplayer. And it makes sense because if you have multiple people on this huge planet, now instead of just one vantage point, you're gonna have multiple vantage points. And then I love that when you're taking different actions, you can also slot in dice, just like how you saw earlier with that lightning symbol, with the impact symbol. I can take on other people's dice in case they need help, or I can also give my dice to other people in case I need help. So the multiplayer experience here is very seamless. This reminds me a lot of a very like tabletop RPG experience, but one that holds your hand a little bit because you don't need to be able to tell a story out of nowhere, out of thin air. Instead, you have some prompts that you could tell a story from. And the thing is, this story is embedded into the game. So I think this is actually a very cool primer for people that are new to tabletop RPGs like me. I taught new gamers in this one and they were so involved in the story, especially when I really amped it up a little bit. I didn't really exaggerate things, but I'm very animated when I teach in general. So I'm like, oh, you just got a brand new weapon. What are you gonna do with it? And they're like doing things crazy and like, oh, I'm gonna cut this guy's head off. And I'm like, you sure about that? There are really cool moments in this story that allow you to bring a very memorable game night. And I think Vantage does that so well. Like the storytelling is next level. But then that's where I become somewhat neutral about this because when you play solo, it is naturally going to be harder for you to discover this world since you have less vantage points and you have less ways to slot in your dice. And that's why I compared this to a Souls game because this game's pretty hard. Even it recommends you to play on a daring level, which is at 4. But for me, if it's your first time playing, I would just start at 6 because it is a hard game. And if you don't like losing, you probably don't want to start at what the game recommends, which is at 4. I would just go straight to 6 and then see how your first play is when it's more of a, like 6 to me is like the normal mode. 4 is already hard and 3 is like bloody murder level. Now on top of Vantage's exploration mechanic being absolutely top tier, I'm gonna limit myself to talking about 3 more things that I really love about this game. The first one is the character progression. I really love how it's done because it's not slow. It's enough for you to feel like you are getting powerful, but at the same time, your actions still have consequences and can still be risky. For me, I reached the point in the game where I was like, I can't believe this is happening to my character right now. And I will talk about that in the spoiler version at the very end of this video, but I can't believe that Stonemaier omitted this information from their description overall. I get why, but that would be such a huge selling point if you realize what happens. Number 2, this game does include a spoiler pack. As you can see, I've opened it last night. Right before I did this review, I played it again last night too, and I reached a point somehow where I got to interact with that spoiler pack. And what I love about this, and you will not be disappointed when you realize what is in there. So I'm not trying to overhype it either, and I want you to experience it when you do get to it. How does this design take it to yet another level when they already have experienced this for 10 games? And yet here I am still discovering things that just make it absolutely memorable. There's just so many things that you can do. I can be in the ocean diving for some relics. I can be on the top of the mountain running out of air to breathe and slowly dying and having my health tick. But as I'm doing that, I am learning all these new things from the beings that are here on this planet and becoming stronger and more knowledgeable about what I can craft. All different sessions. And then in my third session, I open up this game. Here I am in a jungle somewhere, fighting off some of the creatures here or having them help me out to craft some different items. You're just doing a whole plethora of different actions. And when I say that you are having a different experience between each game, that cannot be understated enough because each experience is so different. I think the most important thing that Vantage does is that it respects your time, unlike Earthborne Rangers. Earthborne Rangers, that game makes me upset just talking about it. And the reason why I didn't fully do a review about it is because I didn't want to hate on the game for half an hour. Because the difference between Earthborne Rangers being an open world game 2 and Vantage is that 1, the rulebook in Earthborne Rangers, you have to have like 3 different rulebooks, almost like Marvel Champions LCG. But with Marvel Champions, your questions are answered. In Earthborne Rangers, it sends you off this weird goose chase. In order for you to find the answer to one rule, you need to look through 3 different storybooks. And then when you do find it, it's like, why couldn't that have been in the original rulebook to begin with? And then as you're playing the game, there is no sense of urgency. Like, there's no reason for me to do anything in Earthborne Rangers. I would literally be walking along a path with all these random stats that honestly don't make any sense. And I feel like it's pushing on a weird spirituality / cultural thing and kind of teaching you and babying you in some kind of strange philosophy. And then I come across a bobcat that attacks me and I get mauled. But then the game says, oh, you don't have to get mauled. You can just be okay. From there, I just kind of quit the game because I'm like, dude, I can't do this anymore because this is too much. I invested so much time to learn this game. There's no commitment. There's no agency. The game clearly doesn't respect your time because it throws you on a goose chase with 3 different rule books in order to find one thing. And then when you're actually playing the game, there's no reason for you to do anything. You're kind of just chilling. And I get the chilling type part of the game because I love Mythwind. But Mythwind, there's a reason for you to build buildings. And as events come and there are fires that spread, it is your job to save the village. So there are reasons, very, very important reasons for you to do things in a chilling type game. Earthborne Rangers does everything that Vantage and Mythwind could have done, but did it poorly. And not my game, but Vantage, however, does everything that I wanted in an open world game a lot better. Rulebook, straightforward, a little bit hard for people that are first learning the game. That's why it's actually really helpful if you just watch Rodney's video or before you plays video. So you get help with like just the setup part I thought was a little confusing, but the rest of it, very, very straightforward. And it gives you the systems that you need to understand in order to play this. And I haven't had to look at it since. All right, so Vantage is also gonna come with 3 different add-ons. You have add-ons for the skill tokens, which I will definitely get. There are gonna be some wooden skill tokens offered. I'm getting that. They also will have a grid, which I thought was really cool. That's gonna be really helpful for organization. Instead of putting your cards randomly on a surface, you'll have a 3x3 grid that you can use to allocate all of your items and everything. And that matters because sometimes the items will interact with different parts of your grid. So I really love that. And the coins though, I'm gonna skip out on. You rarely interact with the coins to begin with. So I'm probably gonna skip out on the metal coins for once, which is not normal, but that's probably gonna be the one add-on I'm not gonna get. And instead we'll just get the wooden skill tokens since you interact with those every single turn, and then the grid. And yeah, those are my thoughts overall. For all of those that are joining in for the non-spoiler version, thank you all so much for watching, for tuning in and hear me rant about some comparisons between other games and how much I love this one as well. I hope that helped you in some way decide whether or not Vantage will be a good fit for you. And if you made it here, go ahead and comment skills down below, and then we're gonna go ahead and dive into the spoiler version right now. So last warning before we dive into spoilers, I'm gonna limit myself to 5 things I wanna talk about in the spoiler version of this review. The one big spoiler, earlier I mentioned that your character goes through something in order for you to progress in the game. And I thought it was the coolest thing and something I did not expect, but you're going to gain experience as you are fighting creatures, and you can even get pets in this game. And as you heal them, they can join your grid. Tell me about it. So one of the things that you can gain is experience. And when you gain experience, your character can level up. It can go Super Saiyan and ascend to the next form, which I found to be so freaking cool. Speaking of cool, one of the most epic things that happened to me actually happened in my second play session. And I remember this now, even after so many sessions later. In my second session, I was at the very top of this hill and I was around some of the locals and I started digging. And as I started digging with a tool that I found from ruins earlier, as I started digging, I fell into a cave. And then in that cave, there was a portal to somewhere, but I couldn't get into that portal and I tried to light it up, couldn't do anything about it. So I dug further and then I fell through the cave even more into like this giant ice cavern. And I actually found a flute from ruins earlier and the reason why this is important is because then I got face to face with a dragon. And the dragon, you could actually play a flute in order to lure it in and like calm it down. So I did that, it was successful and I was more than alive. And then after that, I got to tame the dragon and I got to fly on it like a freaking mount and flew out of the cave with that dragon. If that right there is not enough to tell you about this game, I don't know what will be, because that was one of the most epic experiences ever. It's like, oh frick, that instrument that I found earlier I can use that now to tame this dragon. If not, I would have died. I guarantee you the other options probably would have killed me instantly. Like if I were to fight a dragon, I didn't even have a single weapon aside from a shovel, which didn't even have the red skill tokens. Number 3, I usually don't like when games are too open-ended and they give you too much freedom to do what you want. And I'm like, no, just tell me what happens. So in this game, it does it right, where if you complete one mission, you will get one specific ending. If you complete a destiny, you'll get a different ending. If you complete both, you're also gonna get a different ending. And if you die, you also get a different ending. So there's so many different endings. And I love that even though you die, you have the option to sort of regenerate. But when you regenerate, you don't just reset from 0 to 4. What you do is you roll all of your challenge dice, and then whatever faces that show up will be what you regenerate later. So if I lost like all of my health and I was around here and I roll 3 stars, then I would get 1, 2, 3 stars back. And if I only get 1 heart back, then that's it. So I love the way that you get a second chance in this game. It's done right. Number 4, so one epic thing that happened that I did not expect either. This game has a lot of things that you don't expect. One of the things I want to mention was that this game also connects you to a secret message board. So you have to take your phone and you scan something when you reach this event. For me, I think I was scanning a ruin or something, and then it allowed me to reach a message board. And on my phone, it actually took me to a site about Vantage where I can leave notes about, hey, this is happening in this direction, this is happening in this direction. And you can choose like with the drop-down menu, what happens, and you can read also what other travelers have done as well. That's amazing that you can connect players globally by piecing together this epic puzzle. Number 5, final thing I wanted to mention about this game, if I haven't talked about it enough. But number 5 is that what you learn from each session really carries on over from session to session. For instance, if I wanted to feed pets, I know that I should probably have food on hand before I even take that action. And that's something that you won't figure out unless you're interacting with the environment and taking these actions. So I love that between each session, it's so fast to set up and put away, but I'm carrying information, and that right there is your save point. You don't save any items or your characters or any of that. You put everything away, but what you save is your knowledge from game to game. And I thought that was a really cool concept, because sometimes I was fighting like a kraken and I had the most epic fight with it because luckily I had a harpoon and I had to roll the maximum number of challenge dice in order to fight this kraken. I somehow managed to beat it. I was alive with 1 health, which kind of sucked because then it was like, I need to survive off 1 health, which I didn't survive much longer. But then I also got to, I think I took his carcass and made some armor out of it and got a special rune stone and stuff. So the fights here are pretty epic, even though it's not a strictly combat oriented game. It's just that the lead up to the fight and what happens and the rewards are very satisfying. It's so fun. You also have magic in this game. You can go to different schools of masteries and learn different types of magic. And I just think that what this game offers is more than enough game time. Like after so many hours of game time, I can't believe that I feel like I've only scratched the surface of what this game has to offer. With that said, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed today's overall review of the spoiler and non-spoiler version of Vantage. If you have any questions about this game, go ahead and let me know down in the comments. And if you made it here to the very, very end, past the post-credit scene, go ahead and comment secrets down below, because then everyone's gonna be wondering like, secrets? What kind of secrets are they talking about? And you won't know unless you watch the spoilers version. So thank you all so much for watching. See you all tomorrow.